Is that kind of helpful when it comes to preparing for a major? Is that you're just like 1 foot in front of you at this point?
Ideally come to a place here at Bay Hill where I've had good success in the past. I've only played it the last 21, 2, 3, and 4. But I've played it well, and I really liked it that we're heading there with where I'm at right now. I think it's going to tell me a lot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Remember when everyone was upset about NIL? You know what NIL did? Make sure Cooper Flagg wasn't playing with the G League Ignite. That's good for us. That's good for college basketball. When the best players are actually playing college basketball.
You're going to get battle tested. And it doesn't matter, Kevin, if you're at home or on the road. If you don't come ready to play in the SEC, you're going home with an L.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
What's going on here? What are you talking about? But is Bryce going to shave? And then is Bryce going to I hope not. Oh, they once tried to ask me that. They were like, whoa, the mustache, I'm not sure.
Whoa.
At first go round, right? I was like, you know what? All right. And in the second go round, I was like this. Come on now, it looks good. Get used to it, get excited.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
He doesn't feel like he gets enough recognition for his achievements.
I'm on a really good team, and I'm like, I don't matter, but I'll have nights I'll have 21, 19, 18, because I don't matter. I would rather be on a team, a good team that wins, than care about myself. I mean, honestly, wouldn't you rather just play with dudes that are great and win?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish back with you for our next edition of the show, and we're getting ready to talk a lot of sports betting here on the program. Some big news in the world of advertising, so stay on the grid for that. Of course, a huge upset last night in college basketball. Michael DeCourcy will join us from Sporting News with the very latest. Also, Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report. We talk some NBA as well as LeBron James hits the 50,000-point mark. We'll discuss that and also hear from LeBron and Luka Doncic. Also, baseball getting set to get underway in the Grapefruit League at 1 o'clock Eastern. So that and a whole lot more on this edition of the show here on this midweek Wednesday program. Let's get started with the latest on this very big decision that YouTube has made, putting out a release and discussing the idea that they will no longer promote or have any of the content creators on YouTube promote illegal sports betting websites. They announced on Tuesday that unapproved gambling websites that are directed from streams or YouTube videos will be eliminated. In an update posted yesterday, the platform's team said as part of an ongoing effort to protect viewers from harmful content, it is strengthening the existing policies relating to online gambling content, and these are ones that do not meet local legal requirements or haven't been reviewed by YouTube or by Google. This goes into effect on March 19th. Essentially, if you are a content creator and you're posting links to illegal sports betting websites in the United States, your streams will be taken down. Here's the release that was sent out by YouTube yesterday. We know this update may create content creators who focus on online gambling sites like casino games and applications, but we believe these changes are a necessary step in protecting our community, especially younger viewers. We'll see what the future holds for those people who live on making streams that send you to those, as we would say, non-legal wagering sites. Meanwhile, daily fantasy will continue in Maine. There was some thought process that it wouldn't as a bill was proposed, but for the time being, it has been put on hold. The committee voted unanimously on Tuesday to table the bill that would alter daily fantasy sports. The bill would stipulate at least 6 participants would need to take place in a paid fantasy content, unlike some of the DFS movement that you see there. So naturally, for the time being, this has been put to rest, but it does appear that a lot of states around the country want to at least limit the amount of daily fantasy content sites that are out there. Pretty big trade in the National Football League, and bizarre from the Kansas City Chiefs side. One of their best players on the offensive line over the last decade, Joe Thuney, is going to go to Chicago. So the Bears will get their great offensive lineman they were looking for. The Chiefs will get a little bit younger. They'll free up some cap money. And it looks like Patrick Mahomes is going to need a new offensive lineman going into next season. Meanwhile, Devontae Adams was cut by the New York Jets, so he's probably going to wait to see where his buddy Aaron Rodgers signed. Jets clear $29.9 million in cap space. And as of right now, they've also added Alan Lazard to their list of players that want a trade. Saquon Barkley signs a new contract extension with the Philadelphia Eagles. Super Bowl champ gets a 2-year, $41.2 million contract extension. He's now the highest paid running back in the National Football League. $36 million of that is guaranteed. Also, the Bears have acquired another offensive lineman. This happened yesterday. Jonah Jackson goes from the Rams to the Bears, and they get a 6th-round pick in that deal. And also the Cowboys extended their defensive tackle, and I'm not going to get the name right here, even though I've tried it. Osa Odiga Huzwa? I'm out. That was just horrible. Frank, you got a pronunciation on that? I'm going to get that wrong. I tried several times before the show. Yeah, they're like, good luck. Good luck to you there. Osa, their defensive tackle, gets a contract extension, 4 years, $80 million. Well, let's move on. I can pronounce the guys in the NBA. LeBron James, 34 points last night, 50,000 for his career. First ever to do it. The Lakers beat the Pelicans. Final score, 136-115. LeBron had 34, 8, and 6. But here's the big story. Luka Doncic, his best game as a member of the Los Angeles Lakers. 30 points, 8 rebounds, 15 assists. It seems to all be coming together for Luka, who says that he's seen all defenses throw things at him, and he's starting to get used to it.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, like you said, reading the game and natural. I've been playing against blitzes a long time, so I kind of know what to expect, and it's different teams, Some teams, the low man is early, some teams not. Some teams give corners, some teams not. So just going through scouting and then pick up them.
Anytime you're able to get a body off of you or eyes off of you, then it unlocks a lot for you and for our team. He attracts so many eyes and so many defenders, either when he's driving, his pick and roll coverage, his ability to make all the reads, that if I'm getting passes where guys closing out on me, with a live dribble, or they're not closing out on me, I'm able to now make reads where if it's 2 on the ball, then I'm the guy that has the 4-on-3 numbers, and I'm able to see all the other reads as well. I think there's one play against the Clippers where they blitzed Luka at the top of the key, and he swung it to me. I was in the slot, he swung it to me, and then I started to make the reads, and I was able to find Gabe for a wide open 3 because they was blitzing, and then we had the numbers game. So it's kind of a pick your poison when you have 2, brainiacs when it comes to the game of basketball on the floor at the same time.
Phoenix Suns trailed by 19 points last night, and it looked like Kevin Durant and Coach Bud were getting into it a little bit. Durant had 34 points and led the team to a huge comeback. Phoenix had a 43-22 advantage in the fourth. They rallied to beat the Clippers. Final score to 119-117. Always a good press conference, by the way, after the game, this time from Kevin Durant, talking about feeding off the energy of the crowd, and is told at times to not worry about what they're doing. But it seems to me KD pays a lot of attention to that.
Just looking around after we were down 20, it looked like they're having a terrible time. And I hate, putting that type of product on the court. I know we should focus on the game and focus on the game plan and not look into the crowd and not engage with the crowd, keep it professional, all of that they tell us. But I survey the crowd and see, because we need them. We need that energy. So I looked around and just looked dead. And the only way to spark it up is to make some plays, to see the ball go through the rim. And we did to start that fourth. We got to start second quarter better. That's really the game. 41-19 the second quarter. We start the second quarter, give them a 12-2 run every game, it felt like, So we got to be better in that area. And we fought uphill all game, but the fourth quarter was special, man. That was footprint was on fire.
Cleveland wins again in the NBA. They now have 51 wins on the season. Easy win for them. They beat the Bulls 139-117. Cavs now 51-10 on the season. Cleveland had to rally from double digits down. Jarrett Allen talked after the game just about this season and how great their fourth quarters have been.
Just us locking in and just us putting everything together. I feel like the first three and a half quarters, we weren't playing our type of basketball, and everything just clicked at the end.
for third straight game that you've gotten off to a slow start and you've still been able to find a way to win.
Yeah.
Like, how are you guys able to flip it?
We just start playing our kind of basketball. We have these slow starts that we really need to get rid of. When we start playing teams that are going to be in the playoffs, they're going to attack us early, and we can't always go down first just to fight back. That just makes it so much harder. But, we're a good team at the end of the day. We know how to change deficits and come back and win.
Right now, Steph Curry is red hot. 28 points again last night at Madison Square Garden as Golden State beats New York 114-102. Karl Anthony Towns did not play in that game. One of the bigger upsets in a while in college basketball happened last night at College Station as Auburn falls 83-72 to Texas. And right now it looks like that will secure A&M's bid into the NCAA tournament. No word yet on what happens with Auburn, as Auburn, the number one team in the country, this is probably their most significant loss that they've had in a long period of time. BYU beats Iowa State final 88-85 in double overtime. Richie Saunders scored 23 points for BYU. Number 24, Arizona State beats Arizona State 113-100, and Kentucky routed LSU 95-64. In Major League Baseball, the Grapefruit and Cactus League continues. We saw our first glimpse of Roki Sasaki pitched yesterday and had 5 strikeouts in 3 innings pitched. We'll find out the latest on Adolis Garcia later today. And Kevin Gossman starts with the Blue Jays at 1 o'clock Eastern against the Pirates. We'll be right back.
Is that kind of helpful when it comes to preparing for a major? Is that you're just like 1 foot in front of you at this point?
Ideally come to a place here at Bay Hill where I've had good success in the past. I've only played it the last 21, 2, 3, and 4. But I've played it well, and I really liked it that we're heading there with where I'm at right now. I think it's going to tell me a lot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not beating the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Big news out of New York. Mitchell Robinson cleared for 5-on-5. OG Anunoby cleared for 5-on-5. That's big news for the Knicks as they start to get themselves healthy. It's about constructing the right roster, the combination of veterans, young guys, and transfers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. It's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. What a big game in college basketball last night. The ramifications for the number one team in the country losing on the road. Let's get Michael DeCourcy's thoughts from Sporting News. And Mike, talking to our producer Frank here before the show, he made a pretty good point. He said that this game was probably bigger for A&M than it was for Auburn, who seems to probably have locked in a number one seed. If they're not the number one team in the country, I mean, who knows? Maybe they lose one more time and they're number 2 team in the country. But definitely a signature win for A&M, which is going to help their seeding coming up in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. And plus, don't forget, A&M was on a 4-game losing streak, so they needed to right their circumstance. They couldn't go into the SEC tournament on a significant losing streak, or even if they win this weekend, a 5 of 6 type deal. They needed to get it back, and this was an opportunity to get a big one. I kind of vibe when I was looking at that game that reminded me a little bit of Florida in their 2006-07 season when they won the championship. But they went into the SEC tournament losing 3 of 5 because it just didn't matter to them. They clinched the SEC regular season championship with a lot of time left, a week and a half left in the season, and they just seemed to, okay, this didn't mean that much to us, given that we're trying to go 2 in a row. But it meant something, and now there's not anything that means anything to us the rest of the way until we get to the SEC tournament. So that's kind of how it went, and I felt like that with Auburn. Auburn is going to be the number 1 overall seed almost. If they lose their next 2, I think they still will be the 1 overall seed.
Wow.
Because of all they've accomplished. And so I don't know about the poll ranking, but I don't care about it, and I don't think they do either. They want to win in March. They want to win the biggest trophy. Certainly, they already have the SEC regular season, and they certainly would like to win the SEC tournament as well. But the big trophy is the one they're after. So desperation can do a lot of things at this time of year, and you saw that across the bubble on Tuesday night, how intense the games were, how competitive they were, how well played they were because of what everybody is trying to get done. And I think, although A&M's far from the bubble, I think the same concept was at work because of the losing streak.
Yeah, I think so too. And I do think when you look at the Southeastern Conference, I don't think it starts and ends with Auburn, but naturally, as we go to the game tonight, Mike, I mean, this could be the determiner as to who we believe will be the second best team in the SEC, because the Gators tonight go on the road at Alabama, and the odds makers are telling us this is a dead even match because, again, home court advantage usually gets you, 2.5 points, total 178.5. Crimson Tide, to me, I mean, this is probably the game they have to have if they have any dreams of a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. I don't even know if it's even possible at this point, Mike, but they have to have it. If so, Gators would be helped significantly as well.
Yeah, for me, as it stands now, I suppose if Alabama were to lose this game but then beat Auburn and win the SEC tournament, we could reverse this. But as of now, if they get this win at home, I think they're a firm number 1. There's still competition from Tennessee that's really close. The margins between Tennessee and Alabama are very close, but they still favor Alabama to me, and they would even more firmly if they were able to win this game against the Gators. Tennessee fans want to believe that their head-to-head victory on Saturday in a wonderful game, that they want to believe that that's going to do it. But head-to-head doesn't mean that much to the committee, especially when it's on one team's home floor. So right now, if Alabama is able to get the Florida game, the number 1 seed is theirs to lose. And if Florida gets it, then I think Tennessee will go ahead, but Florida will be right there behind them. It's very close for those 3 SEC teams.
All right, so let's take a look at your number 1 seeds as of now, and as it correlates to the odds over on FanDuel. Auburn, Duke, Alabama, Houston. I mean, if we got an Auburn-Duke final, by the way, I mean, we could be one of the highest-rated games in college basketball in a long time. But I know how this works, Mike. We're not getting that. We're not going to get it. That's not the way basketball works. We fill out these brackets, and I love when we do it. And you and I are going to talk about this and laugh and say, I only have 2 number 1 seeds. Oh, you're only, right? And sometimes there are none of the number 1 seeds going to the end. But certainly, I do think that the odds make sense here looking at this because, I mean, they've been the 2 most dominant teams. And by the way, outside of Auburn's hiccup last night, they've had none all year.
Right. The Auburn season has been remarkable. They have played an extraordinarily difficult schedule, the most difficult schedule by the net rankings, using that as the determining factor in terms of team value. They have played the most difficult schedule in America and have achieved monstrous things against it. Duke has not played the most difficult schedule in America, and it's not their fault. They happen to be members of a league that is having a dreadful year. So they are still terrific, but they haven't faced the same level of competition that Auburn has. But it would be amazing if we were able to get those 2 into the final. every now and then we get it, the two best teams or the two teams that have had the greatest seasons, however you want to say it. It doesn't happen often, but these are two teams that have a chance to do that. I mean, a year ago, we probably had the two best, UConn against Purdue. So it does happen. And you look at these two teams with the depth of talent each of them has. Duke needs to be a little bit healthier than they are. And Auburn has to get back that hunger and motivation that seemed to be lacking last night. But I do think that both of those teams have a chance to have great opportunities in March.
So the 2 seeds right now, this is where things could get fluid because you just don't know what's going to happen in the conference tournaments next week. Tennessee, Florida. Florida seems to be locked in. I would say Michigan State at this point. I mean, there's been nobody hotter than them. And then St. John's, like a couple weeks ago, this would have been like, if everything goes exactly the right way for them, maybe they peak into a 2. And I think that that's where they're at right here. But I would say, Mike, that probably by the time that we get through next weekend, this could change.
Oh, definitely. Florida and Tennessee both still chasing that last 1 seed. And obviously, the Houston circumstance, they are not secure there. They could give up theirs, and Alabama could give it up as soon as tonight. So Florida and Tennessee right there to get ones if somebody stumbles. And then Michigan State in great shape. But that St. John's, it's somewhat by default. Now, it's a great place to be. If you're getting a number 2 seed, you're having a great year. But they're going to have to do special things in the Big East tournament to hold that ground.
The madness is here, Mike. Next week it is conference tournaments, and then the big dance begins. Can't wait to discuss it with you. Have a great rest of your week.
You too, Craig.
Sound off up next. Don't go away.
Is that kind of helpful when it comes to preparing for a major? Is that you're just like 1 foot in front of you at this point?
Ideally come to a place here at Bay Hill where I've had good success in the past. I've only played it the last 21, 2, 3, and 4. But I've played it well, and I really like that we're heading there with where I'm at right now. I think it's going to tell me a lot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
You know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not beating the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Big news out of New York. Mitchell Robinson cleared for 5-on-5. OG Anunoby cleared for 5-on-5. That's big news for the Knicks as they start to get themselves healthy. It's about constructing the right roster, the combination of veterans, young guys, and transfers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. I mean, it's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Looks like Jose Iglesias of New York Mets MG fame is signing a one-year deal with the San Diego Padres, according to the New York Post. So Iglesias goes to the Padres. No more Mets for him in the future. All right, we'll get to a little football talk here. We'll talk some NHL trade deadline, which is coming up fast and furious. And also the poor Jets just keep getting clowned on. Doesn't even matter if there's no NFL season. Time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. All right, Jared Allen is headed to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. One of the great defensive linemen in the past 20, 30 years. I mean, this guy was incredible at sacking the quarterback. I guess the bottom line here is that what possessed Jared Allen to wear a cowboy hat? No, I'm just kidding. What possessed Jared Allen to dive into the New York Jets in part of a conversation that he had about going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame? I mean, haven't the Jets taken enough abuse through the years? Here's Allen on those poor Jets.
I'd rather be close than freaking who sucks, the Jets? Oh, gosh. Being the Jets would be miserable right now. I just can't believe anybody took that job. Rough one. So you get to say this stuff when you're retired. You can say whatever you want. It's awesome. Talk bad about all the organizations because they don't pay paychecks. It's awesome. What else you got for me?
Tough look there for the Jets, but tougher look for Jared Allen. What's with the cowboy hat? You're doing a press conference. I don't know. Meanwhile, Saquon Barkley had a season to remember with the Philadelphia Eagles. Not only did he have a historical season rushing the ball, his team ended up winning a Super Bowl. So naturally, at this point, it was probably fair for the Eagles to extend his contract. Gets $36 million guaranteed. Here's Scott Farrell and Carver on Coast to Coast talking about the new deal for the best running back in the NFL.
I got to tell you, I said this to you off air earlier, and I'll say it live now. I think that he had the most incredible season that he will ever have. He will never do that again. In Philly, I don't care what anyone thinks. That was a once-in-a-lifetime season, and he got it all, the 2,000-plus yards, the glory, the Super Bowl ring, the Giants effed up royally. Blame Shane, blame Mara, blame them all. Blame Dable, blame them all. They're all so stupid that they let him go. But I do not believe that they will ever get that from him again. Remember, when he played in New York, he was injured a lot. He had a miracle season in Philly where he was never injured, playing with a loaded team, with a loaded offensive line, the best offensive line in the NFL. Now, people will say it's automatic that he's going to do it again. Nobody ever does it again.
Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers have made some small deals, but there could be some mega deals on the way. For those of you who are not following, the NHL trade deadline is less than 72 hours away. So that means it's the last shot for a lot of teams to try and take down the Cats and win the Cup. Who could potentially be moved come the trade deadline? Let's check in with our very own SportsGrid NHL analyst, Joe Madden, on the trade deadline that's coming.
With the NHL trade deadline right around the corner, there are a lot of question marks still around who is going to be buyers and who is going to be sellers. Now, we know there was a big move by the Florida Panthers to pick up Seth Jones from the Chicago Blackhawks. In return, the Blackhawks getting Spencer Knight. Now, he proved on Monday Spencer Knight is the future for the Chicago Blackhawks, absolutely being golden out there for them between the pipes, giving Chicago fans the hope that they have found their goalie of the future. Now, Seth Jones was impactful for the Florida Panthers, and I do think he's a great addition on the defensive side of things. We still have questions around Mikko Rantanen with the Carolina Hurricanes. We know he was acquired in that blockbuster trade back over a month ago, but Mikko Rantanen just isn't converting the offensive firepower that the Carolina Hurricanes were hoping for. So questions on if he will be on the move, as well as Erik Karlsson here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Erik Karlsson, an elite offensive defenseman out there on the ice, will make a great addition to any team that he does go to. So we will see where his future home will be, allowing the Pittsburgh Penguins to clear up cap space. Lots of teams, lots of questions. Stay tuned to SportsGrid here for all of your latest updates. Back to you, Craig.
All right, thanks very much, Joe. With the trade deadline coming up, we will have you covered there. Also, news out of the Cactus League, Adalis Garcia, who left his game with an oblique issue, according to reports, is going to be ready for opening day. Not as serious as the oblique issue with Wyatt Langford, so expect Garcia to be back in the Texas Rangers lineup, maybe as they close out spring training closer to opening day on March 27th. We'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back next, what's the latest with Bet365? Sam McQuillan will tell us whether or not they're willing to take a bigger leap into some new markets. We'll go next.
that kind of helpful when it comes to preparing for a major? Is that you're just like 1 foot in front of you at this point?
Ideally, come to a place here at Bay Hill where I've had good success in the past. I've only played it the last 21, 2, 3, and 4. But I've played it well, and I really like that we're heading there with where I'm at right now. I think it's going to tell me a lot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Big news out of New York. Mitchell Robinson cleared for 5-on-5. OG Anunoby cleared for 5-on-5. That's big news for the Knicks as they start to get themselves healthy. It's about constructing the right roster, the combination of veterans, young guys, and transfers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. It's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
We got Sam McQuillan with us from Legal Sports Report, very latest on Bet365, maybe adding some new markets very quietly in the sports betting industry. Let's check in with Sam. And Sam, as you know, this NFL season was quite different than in years past. In fact, betting favorites was the way to go in the NFL season, which almost never happens. So therefore, sportsbooks generally don't do that well. How did FanDuel do based on that? And what do you think that meant for their overall handle in the NFL season?
Yeah, it's really interesting now that we have some time removed from the NFL season to kind of review what happened. There were 10 weeks during the middle of the season where at least 75% of favorites on a given week won their games, which DraftKings pointed out a few weeks back hasn't happened since the history of sports betting when we started tracking this kind of thing. So naturally, it was going to throw off what sports books do. Usually people tend to bet on the favorite. Usually sports books tend to be more successful than the public, but this year was quite different. You had a lot of sports books sort of figure out halfway through the season that maybe we need to change our approach here. And that approach for companies like FanDuel aligned with pushing more same game parlays, these higher margin bets that we talk about over and over. And it's really interesting, despite this just historic season of favorites winning, you had companies like FanDuel having basically their best ROI ever. They were able to hold 14.5% win margin on all the handle that was bet with them this season, which was a record. It's a good long-term. It's a good step towards their long-term target of 16% by 2030. And the industry standard has been about 8.5% over the last couple of years. So again, much bigger than that number, bigger than the number DraftKings posted, which was about 13%. And it's impacted handle, like you mentioned, Craig. People aren't betting as large amounts. They are betting smaller amounts on these big lottery ticket parlays, which, FanDuel talked about. We've gotten, customers to start betting more legs. They have this new product, Now Your Way, which allows more customization with same game parlays, customization with parlays in general, which they said has basically attributed to a higher leg count, essentially meaning that the bets are harder to hit for people with bigger payouts. So it's been interesting to see them kind of change their approach there. They had a really great year again, despite the NFL favorites winning. They were the top sports book in terms of revenue with about 43% of the market. And they produced over $500 million in profit from their sports betting and iGaming operations in the U.S., which compared to other sports books who are still trying to become profitable just in one quarter, let alone 1 year, is obviously a big jump. So going forward, the book is going to try to push more of these parlays and increase their ROI in turn. Now with March Madness on the rise, I wouldn't be surprised if you see them, make similar pushes with their product there. And then obviously with the NBA playoffs on the horizon as well. So they actually came out pretty good after football season, despite how awful it was kind of for the industry to deal with. So we'll see if they can continue to roll this momentum forward as we get further into the sports calendar.
Yeah, a surprising season in that way. As you said, generally the favorites never covering that much, but probably turn next year. That would be my feeling there. All right, let's get to the latest. Yeah. Let's get to the latest in sports betting operators. Let's touch on Bet365. So much of our discussion, Sam, as you know, is usually around FanDuel, DraftKings. Good to see BetMGM still making moves here. Looks like they're headed to 2 new markets to see if they can get their impact there. Which are the markets, and do you think it'll be successful?
Yeah, Bet365 is one of these sports books. For a while, we've kind of wondered when they're going to ramp up. They call themselves the world's largest sports book. They have just a ton of money backing them from the Coates family in the UK, but they've been hesitant to really expand in the US. But now we're anticipating they're going to add 2 more states around March Madness is kind of what we're targeting. They would add Tennessee and Illinois, which would bring them from 11 states to 13 states. And those are pretty important states because Illinois, is huge. It's a top 5 gaming market. And Tennessee is also very competitive in terms of online sports betting. We're about 7 years in. Bet365 has been slow. They launched in North Carolina last year, and you saw a lot of promos around that launch. They would be good to take advantage of how the Volunteers have done so far in college basketball. They're about 4th in the country right now. And Illinois looks like they'll make the big dance as well. Considering the recent tax changes in those states, Illinois is one of those states that doubled its tax rate, which has led to operators like DraftKings and FanDuel, the ones we often talk about on this show, saying they want to find ways to pull back their spending in that state to mitigate those tax increases, which could open an opportunity for a sports book like Bet365 to come in with bigger promos, better offers, more advertising, because often what is slashed when you talk about, ways to cut down spending is promos, marketing, and advertisements. And Illinois is a state that DraftKings and FanDuel have been in for a long time. They're not really being super aggressive there trying to defend the top spots. So it would be a good chance for Bet365 to get in there, especially around March Madness. And then Tennessee as well. They have a tax on handle, unlike most states, which have a tax on revenue. So essentially, all the money that they take in bets is getting taxed. So that could be harder for Bet365 to go in there and try to flood the market and get people to bet. But it's also still, again, a very big state and a big market, and would be just very significant in terms of their ramp up, which has been slow, again, over the last 7 years. They have a ton of money backing them. So we're kind of we've been waiting to see when they're going to ramp it up, and this could be kind of another stepping stone to moving forward, where they're trying to compete for that top spot among all U.S. sports books eventually.
All right, and finally, let's get to the latest in sports betting taxes, which we've seen some significant pullback, or at least attempt to pull back in a lot of different places. But is it the opposite here, Sam, in New Jersey? It feels like New York and New Jersey are going in 2 different directions here with this.
Yeah, well, it's you can figure out why they're going in 2 different directions when you look at their tax rates. New Jersey is about 13%. New York is a nation high 51%. So it's a lot easier to drum up support to reduce a tax that is essentially taking half your money, more than half your money, than it is to drum up support for getting rid of a smaller tax. So, but New Jersey is considering doubling their tax rate from 13% to 25%. Governor Phil Murphy has been talking about it as part of his budget plan. Kind of ironic considering he might be one of the most instrumental people in legalizing sports betting, not just in New Jersey, but around the country. When New Jersey sought to legalize sports betting, a few years back, the NCAA sued him and sued the state to stop it, which essentially led to the Supreme Court over repealing the ban. So ironic here now that he's talking about kind of doubling the tax. And I think that gives him some credibility here. He can't be seen as this guy who is anti-gaming industry, anti-sports betting. He's pretty much the reason that we have it. So it's garnering support in the New Jersey legislature. One senator came out this week, said he supports the change. It would add about $400 million to the $58 billion budget, which again is a drop in the bucket considering the budget projects to be a $6.3 billion surplus. So there's not this huge need to raise it. There is some opposition that's been drummed up in support, to oppose the tax. In the meanwhile, tied to Atlantic City, they want New Jersey to be a gaming hub. We continue to have online sports betting proliferate, but New Jersey, anything they'll do here is very important because, again, they're a leader. So if they do manage to get this over the hill, you never know what can happen from now until the end of the budget process, which is in the end of June. Could be a bargaining chip. If they do manage to get this, it would probably encourage other states where there's a lower tax rate to do the same. Maybe not a state like New York, again, where it's 51% already, but other states around the country where, they're seeing New Jersey double theirs and figuring it's an easy way to make revenue without many changes.
All right. Well, Sam, great stuff as always, and certainly Responsible Gaming Month. Our top story of the day here on NewsWire is YouTube, shutting down any kind of operation with links to any illegal sports betting sites. So I'm sure that's something that we'll be covering with you guys later in the week. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Craig.
All right, Sam McQuillan with us from Legal Sports Report. As I mentioned, YouTube making the announcement late yesterday that content creators who have links to casinos or anything that is not legal online here in 2025 will be shut down effective immediately, or should I say effective immediately, meaning March 19th. So content creators, you have 2 weeks to go find another platform if you're going to post stuff like that. Simon Applebaum is next. Don't go away.
Is that kind of helpful when it comes to preparing for a major? Is that you're just like 1 foot in front of you at this point?
Ideally come to a place here at Bay Hill where I've had good success in the past. I've only played it the last 21, 2, 3, and 4. So, but I've played it well, and I really liked it that we're heading there with where I'm at right now. I think it's going to tell me a lot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. You're just not beating the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Big news out of New York. Mitchell Robinson cleared for 5-on-5. OG Anunoby cleared for 5-on-5. That's big news for the Knicks as they start to get themselves healthy. It's about constructing the right roster, the combination of veterans, young guys, and transfers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. He's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish back with you. We got Simon Applebaum in the house, so the podcast tomorrow will be televised. A resident expert on television and ratings, and as it pertains to sports wagering as well. So let's bring Simon in as he joins us from our studios in New York. Simon, great to be back with you here. We'll dive into the very latest topics. A show on ESPN, by the way, going away. Been around since I can ever remember, over 2 decades. We'll focus on that. But I know there's some also new news from one player in the NFL as well.
Yes, and that player, Craig, is Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen. This morning, he signed a deal to become a TV-making entrepreneur with Skydance Sports. That is the joint venture between Skydance, which is a month or two away from acquiring Paramount, CBS, and all that, all those channels, and the NFL. What Allen is going to do, he's going to create a whole line of shows, scripted, unscripted, as well as content involving national advertisers. So Allen becomes the latest quarterback with people like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, who either have their own TV production companies or they're involved with companies like Skydance Sports to create their own stuff.
All right, great stuff. All right, now, obviously we know that AI is a very big deal. It's, taking over a lot of the ways that we used to do things in journalism and television and, honestly in media as well. But what is Alexa Plus here, Simon? I know what Prime is and I know what Alexa is, but what is Alexa Plus and how does Alexa Plus figure in to the next wave of sports wagering?
Very simple. Alexa Plus is the generative AI fueled new version, the souped up version of Alexa, which, by the way, is currently running in Amazon Fire TV sets and devices, Samsung, other smart TV sets as well. Think of Alexa Plus as a more personalized, a sort of best friend, if you will, to do all sorts of tasks in your home, which you can trigger with your voice remote. The thing is, it works on any device. It works on speakers. It works on smart TV sets and devices. It works all over the place. And the big thing about Alexa Plus is it has a lot of companies involved with them to do all sorts of services, whether it's order a meal, get it delivered, make an airline reservation, and it looks like sports betting. Now, Alexa Plus showcased itself last week here in New York, and while they didn't show a sports betting situation, what was very clear is that Alexa Plus is going to be part of Amazon Fire TV sets and devices. The rollout's going to be like, by the way, I should point out that Alexa Plus is going to be launched on Echo speakers first. If you're a Prime subscriber, that includes Prime Video, you get it free. If you don't, you pay $19.99 a month. When I talked to somebody from Amazon and asked, when is this going to be on Amazon Fire TV devices, that person said in a couple of months. I would suspect that when Amazon has their big upfront event in New York mid-May, it's going to be on a Monday night, the first nighttime event, and they're going to be showing a lot of what they're doing with all sorts of Amazon devices, from Prime Video to Amazon channels and so forth. They will probably announce that they're going to put Alexa Plus in these products. And that means that they could have a heads up on ESPN and other people that want to launch sports betting as part of their mega content service or other things this fall. So Amazon could very well, in short order, because let's forget, Alexa Plus, by the way, is safe, it's secure, it operates fast, it's personalized. This could be the way that Amazon gets to be not just a player in sports betting, but a big player in sports betting, particularly if they can get the Bet365s you just had talk about with Sam earlier this half hour, plus DraftKings, FanDuel and so forth. If the sports betting industry gets behind Amazon, they could very well be not just the first big player, but a huge big player in sports betting on television.
Interesting stuff. It's fascinating to me, Simon, the popularity of Formula One. I mean, so many people watch this. There's so much money involved in it. And I think to the average person in the United States, they don't follow it nearly as closely, but maybe they should be, because it seems like a very big contract is on deck here as their contract expires with ESPN.
Yes, Craig. As we talked about last week, ESPN is dropping Major League Baseball after this year. And now it looks like Formula One, which ESPN has had for the last couple of years on Sunday mornings and sometimes early weekday mornings when they're doing the heats, that Formula One is looking for a new TV player in the United States. Now, one of the issues is that unlike other events, Formula One does its own television coverage. You have to take their coverage, even if a Formula One event is happening here in the United States. So that may be a problem for some people in terms of if they want a new player and that player is saying, hey, you got to give us the right to produce the coverage, not you. But however, I think a Netflix, I think a Prime Video, I think some of the other the mega content services, maybe even Apple TV Plus could be in line to take some of the races. And I would suspect the 4 races they could take are the 3 races in the United States and the Grand Prix of Monaco, which has been, since the 1960s on ABC's Wide World of Sports, a very popular TV attraction. So look for Netflix and other mega content services to be in the big hunt to get a Formula One contract, if they can particularly produce their own coverage.
Yeah, and that's really the key, is because Formula One is such a niche broadcast and sport as well. Okay, so Masson finally got things figured out, Simon, between the Baltimore Orioles and Washington Nationals. The Nationals now have their television rights back, but it seems to me, Simon, this is a very short-term fix, especially for the Nationals. Wouldn't surprise me if we see them after next year go out and do their own thing. Maybe Major League Baseball takes over the broadcast rights. Simon, we're just seeing this all over Major League Baseball. Teams are taking over the keys to their kingdom. I would imagine this is what the Nationals are doing after this year.
Absolutely. You can count on it. In fact, that's the deal with the contract. 2025, it's on Mid-Atlantic Sports Network or Masson. And then 2026, the Nationals can do whatever they want. They can try to go for a local broadcast station contract, maybe do a smart TV set service like SNY is trying to do now with smartphones and tablets and websites. It's a done deal. The question is, who are they going to deal with and what way are they going to go? Broadcast, multicast, smart TV set devices, all the above. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and SNY doing something similar. I mean, Simon, it does appear that all of the regional sports networks appear to be getting in line or getting in a row for some mega deal in a couple of years. But at least for the time being, SNY's idea is moving their content over to the MLB app. A lot of other teams do this too, Simon. But, good move to sort of centralize all the broadcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing about the regional sports situation, keep your eye on later this month with MSG Network, because they are $800 million in debt. They've got to pay that debt or else they may go bankrupt. And that's a story to follow for the rest of this month.
All right, Simon. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your week.
You too, Craig. Enjoy.
All right, last licks on deck. J.J. Watt may be playing another sport. Is that possible? Tell you next. Don't go away.
Is that kind of helpful when it comes to preparing for a major? Is that you're just like 1 foot in front of you at this point?
Ideally come to a place here at Bay Hill where I've had good success in the past. I've only played it the last 21, 2, 3, and 4. But I've played it well, and I really like that we're heading there with where I'm at right now. I think it's going to tell me a lot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. You're just not beating the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Big news out of New York. Mitchell Robinson cleared for 5-on-5. OG Anunoby cleared for 5-on-5. That's big news for the Knicks as they start to get themselves healthy. It's about constructing the right roster, the combination of veterans, young guys, and transfers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. He is now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Got some great programming coming up, which we will tell you all about. Big tournament at Bay Hill, of course, in the PGA Tour. Brady Cannon will join us. We'll discuss that tomorrow on the show. But first, let's get to the latest in college basketball and some, of course, NFL as well. We'll start off with some last licks with a story about one of the great players on defense formerly in the NFL, who made a promise that sometimes is hard to keep. Time now for some last licks. All right, really interesting here. J.J. Watt trying to put his money where his mouth is, but unfortunately may have failed in this case. Watt, one of the great players on defense in the history of the National Football League, as soon as he's eligible to be in the Hall of Fame, played with Houston, played with Arizona as well. Watt promised a goalkeeper that he would come out of retirement, get this, and play for the Cincinnati Bengals if the goaltender didn't give up a goal for the rest of the season. So today, after 2 months and 12 consecutive clean sheets, as they say, James Trafford is the name of the goaltender, gave up a goal. And so therefore, Watt will not come back and play for the Cincinnati Bengals. By the way, Watt, great player, didn't go all that great with Arizona. Fair to say? Is that fair? I think so. It wasn't that great with Arizona. Watt's response, I don't like Skyline chili anyway. All right, so J.J. Watt having a little fun there. By the way, speaking of Skyline chili, I have actually had that one time. I had to try it. I was in Cincinnati, and I was there for the All-Star game in 2015, I think, Major League Baseball All-Star game. And I did try Skyline chili. It was okay. Nothing amazing, nothing fantastic. I don't get it. All right, let's go to college baseball here. So George Mason playing college baseball. I believe, was this yesterday, Frank, or the day before? I did see this. This was a inning yesterday, a day game. 23 runs in one inning for George Mason. But what's most fascinating about this outcome here is not scoring 23 runs in a game, because believe me, I've seen youth baseball. I've seen a lot of runs scored. But how you do it without a home run and a triple. Do we have time for me to go through all of these outcomes? I could try. Do you think we could do it? All right. Ground out. Yeah, this is one inning, folks. This all happened in one inning. Ground out, walk, walk, single, single, hit by pitch, double, single, hit by pitch, fielder's choice, double, walk, hit by pitch, walk, double, single, hit by pitch, double, pop out, walk, double, single, walk, single, fielder's choice. Got it in. Okay, there you go. You get that back? I think if you're watching this on YouTube, you can slow me down after the show's over, and you can hear me talk slower so I can get it all in. Either way, that's what happened. No home runs, no triples, and they end up getting that in. All right, here's the most important point of this. The SportsGrid app is changing, and we have new enhancements in the SportsGrid app. We're announcing some major upgrades that elevate the user experience on the app, making it faster, more modern, and easier to navigate. No more waiting around, folks, for the app. Lazy Load is now live for trends and props, replacing the outdated system we used to have. Users can now enjoy a seamless scroll with faster loading times and an improved experience. We've also modernized the design and registration and the login. And it also will help you improve the visual experience in streaming our shows, but also streamlines the process for users, making it quicker to get started and log back in. And also, we've got overhauled standings across the major sports. All major sports now have a significant upgrade there, enhanced view to give you a better engagement in the process. So those of you who do not have the SportsGrid app, let me show you how you download it. If we could pull that up, Luke. The SportsGrid app QR code. Luke is fast. There it is. Take out your phone. Scan the QR code, SportsGrid app. Give it a shot, folks. It's how, when people ask me, how do I watch SportsGrid? There's usually two ways that I tell them. The first is, what kind of TV do you have? Because I know there's still a lot of old school people still want to watch on TV. And I'm like, okay, well, it's available on Vizio and Samsung, like on all of these different TVs that give you smart TVs. It's like a fast channel on all that. For those people who don't know, you just watch it. It's free. Second way is downloading the SportsGrid app. You just open it up and just watch the show. So those are two really easy ways. Congrats to everybody involved for getting that SportsGrid app going. All right, so shows that you want to watch. Bay Hill preview coming up at noon with Smiley. He's got you covered. And then Scott Farrell's up at 3 o'clock Eastern with the latest in college basketball. The NFL free agency period set to start, and the National Hockey League as well. Game time decisions at 6, in-game live game day, and then Sports Rage tonight. Thanks again to our guests on the show, Michael DeCourcy of Sporting News. Thanks again to Sam McQuillan for coming on the program as well, for talking a little sports with us. And thanks to Simon Applebaum of the podcast tomorrow will be televised. And for our director, Luke, and my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. Can't wait to be back with you on the Thursday edition of NewsWire. As I said, one of the big tournaments on the PGA Tour in Florida set to tee off tomorrow in Orlando. So we'll have the very latest on that with Brady Cannon. Brady's been red hot here at the start of the golf season. Hopefully he can pick another winner for you. And we'll also have the latest from Major League Baseball's Grapefruit League and Cactus League as well. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Keep it locked here to SportsGrid rest of the day. See you tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, for our next edition of NewsWire.